Solidarity, comrades. Today I wanted to talk about a very tragic subject involving the age of Japanese military imperialism within the Philippines during the imperialist era, during the World War II era, even preceding the World War II era, and starting during the Meiji Restoration, where they took control of Korea through diplomatic means and Manchuria through a war with, I believe it was the Russian Empire. And this spawned this idea within the Japanese military that they need resources for their island to grow the overpopulation, as they called it, to accommodate the overpopulation of their growing empire. And this leads me to talk about the this leads me to talk about the ever-expanding imperialism, starting in armed imperialism, starting with the 1930s invasion of China, beginning with the Marco Polo bridge incident, their justification to invade nationalist China. This subject is very tragic because of what they did to not only Koreans but also the Philippines and the Chinese people, and as well as the Korean people. Now let's start with Korea. They forced Koreans to take on Japanese names. They exploited their labor, as imperialism goes, and they controlled their country, taking away their self-determination and their right of national liberation. And then you continue on to the invasion of China, where they did abhorrent things. One of the most famous things that they did was, at the time of nationalist China rule over China, the capital was Nanjing, which Nan means, in Mandarin, Nan means south, Jing means capital, like Bei means north, and Jing means, Beijing means northern capital. And once they arrived at the capital of the Chinese, they enacted what is called the rape of Nanjing, where they murdered millions, raped women, killed children. It is one of the most abhorrent acts of violence ever carried out by a quasi-fascist imperialist entity. Now, their rape of Nanjing isn't the only bad thing they did to China. They did many bad things to China. They killed, they burned down villages, they extracted their resources, they forced slave labor amongst that, and they took comfort women, which is an easy way to say they took women and turned them into sex slaves. And the same can be said for Korea. That doesn't stop at just Korea and Japan. They did the same in Indochina, which is now known as Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. They did the same in Burma, which is now known as Myanmar. They did the same in the Philippines. These crimes can never be forgotten. And now recently in the news, they are being held accountable for their crimes all of these years later. But the current government in Japan, led by Shinzo Abe, still denies that these sorts of things happen, and it makes me angry beyond belief. And I think that until justice from the Japanese government is fully served, that there can be no justice for the crimes that they have done. There's no forgiveness for what they've done. There's no way to give back for what they've done. They need to face the consequences. The consequences, I feel, should be very harsh. And sorry for the background, by the way. I'm filming this at work and during my break. And we have to remember that this isn't just a product of the Japanese are bad people. The average Japanese person is probably a decent person. There's good people and bad people within society. But the Japanese government, under their imperialist, quasi-fascist, military-first ideals, they enacted imperialism. Their idea of taking land, resources, and labor from countries and nations that are not theirs, and using it for their own. Luckily, through the combined efforts between the communist Chinese and the nationalist Chinese, setting aside their civil war to unite the United Front to fight against the Japanese, they were able to stop the Japanese on mainland China. This is what is known as a United Front. This comes from the not just Maoist, but this comes from his philosophical contribution to Marxism called contradiction. The highest form of, I've said this a million times, the highest form of capitalism is imperialism. In order to build national liberation and socialism, we must first combat the primary contradiction of that, which is capitalism, and the highest form of capitalism is imperialism. So they united together and defeated the Japanese within mainland China. This was successful, and then 1946 to 1949, the civil war between the nationalists and the communists succeeded. The reason the communists won is because they won the heart of the masses, because they understood what the masses wanted through mass line politics. And I have a video about mass line. And the nationalists were incapable of running a state. Their entire wealth is based on foreign aid from the United States and Western powers. And that is why they reside in an illegal government in Taiwan. So that's what I want to talk about today. I wanted to remind everyone. I know many people in the Western world, I know many communists know, but many people in the Western world do not know of the crimes committed by the Japanese. I know they know about Pearl Harbor and the invasion of the United States, but they do not know the crimes committed in the Asian community, whether it's the Philippines, Korea, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, Burma, or Myanmar as it's known now. And I think it's essential to understand that the current government of Japan does not accept that these crimes are committed. They deny it to the end, and that is complete bullshit. And I just wanted to make this video, short video. There will be more to come regarding the election and the statement from the Party of Communist USA. I want to make a video on that, and I want to include their response to the election and what we should do to organize against this horrible, acts of Donald Trump and his racist vitriol, and what we should do to combat that. Anyway, solidarity, comrades, and have a good one.